What's hiding underneath things can be scary. Underwater, under your bed, especially what's under your carpet. Except when you get new carpet from Carpet One Floor and Home. After tearing up your old carpet, they'll vacuum and apply Health Annex antimicrobial to your subfloor, disinfecting and killing mold, mildew, and any remaining general awfulness. Carpet One Floor and Home goes the extra mile to protect you, your family, and your home. Carpet One Floor and Home in Columbia, making your home beautiful, guaranteed.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Tuesday, March the 15th. How many times you say, oh, my memory just isn't what it used to be. I can't remember anything. Well, that really is false. According to our next guest, Danielle Winton. And Danielle, you're here from Memory Strategies, right?
Yeah.
And we have talked to you before saying anybody can remember things if they just know how to.
Exactly.
But let me just clarify a couple of some people do have a photographic memory, right? And they just look at something and they can remember it without even trying.
Yeah, some people are naturally gifted with memory, but even if you're not naturally gifted, you still have a lot of opportunities to learn and grow.
Okay. So saying I can't remember somebody's name is an excuse that really doesn't hold water because you can remember their name.
Exactly, but people just don't know how and haven't practiced it.
So let's talk about some of the myths of memory loss.
Yeah, and I love talking about myths because there are so many about memory especially.
Okay, myth number one, there's no one place for memories in the brain.
That's right.
What do you mean by that?
So I think a lot of people have the misconception that there's sort of one place in our brain where all of our memories are kept. So a lot of people might say, oh, the hippocampus is responsible for memory. And although that's true, our brain is built like a spider web or like a bunch of roads and highways that are all intersecting.
Kind of like the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And so really, there's some studies that show that memories are actually made by a neuron traveling along a specific route and collecting information along the way to form that memory. So it's actually kind of all over the brain. The brain is so much more complicated than we give it credit for.
Okay.
So
that's myth number one. Myth number two is what?
So a lot of people feel I must be stupid for not remembering something.
And that's not true.
And it's not true. You know, I think we need to be a lot kinder to ourselves. You know, people automatically feel like they're a failure and therefore they're not intelligent or they're not capable of doing something. But we need to practice a lot more self-forgiveness and self-care and just give ourselves space to learn how to remember, that it's okay to forget.
Yeah, I think we should clarify one thing, though. While we're talking about this, some people who do have dealing with Alzheimer's or dementia, that's a totally different story there.
Right, and that's actually something I'm going to talk about, I think, in one of my next tips.
Okay, you got some tips here. So let's talk about tips. Tip number one, don't remember what you don't need to remember. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so this one is a lot more practical. There is a lot of information that we don't need to remember, but we put it on ourselves to remember. So something like time. Oh, I need to be there at 6 o'clock, or I need to go pick someone up at 7 o'clock. Instead of burdening ourselves with that type of information, that's why we have calendars and agendas and planners. We can use these technology tools or books or whatever to write down that information. That way we don't have to keep it in our brain.
But don't we strengthen our brain by trying to use it, remembering things?
Yes, but I would say that there are better ways to do it than something like what time is dinner or what time is the concert or something like that.
So you're saying put it down on paper, on a calendar. You don't have to burden yourself with
Right.
it.
There's no reason to have to remember that.
Okay.
So I would say save your brain power for something else.
All right. And tip number, two?
2, yeah. Okay, so you were asking about Alzheimer's. So being active, not passive. I'm so glad you asked that question. There was a study that was published in the journal Brain and Cognition that found that adults from the ages of 40 to 59 who spent 1 hour watching TV, their chances of getting Alzheimer's increased by 1.3%.
Oh, my gosh.
So
Wait a minute.
I know.
You're saying between 40
and 59.
40 and 59, if you spend an hour, just 1 hour watching television, your chances of Alzheimer's increase.
Goes up by 1.3%.
And what about if you're older than 59 or 60.
I'm not sure. That wasn't part of the study, but let's talk about why.
Why? Yeah.
Okay, so when you are watching TV, it is a very passive activity. You are, relaxed and you are consuming information and you are in a more sort of reactive state instead of a active state. So TV and watching TV, it sort of is like a dumbing down activity. And so in order to counteract that, we can be doing activities like cooking or doing your hobbies or being social or exercising. Reading, yeah, it's a little more involved than TV, but I would say, the more active you can be, the more creative you can be, the more engaged you can be, because, TVs and lecture and reading, those are a little more passive. But if you are interacting with it, like if you're doing writing, if you're talking about what you're reading with someone, that's going to light up a lot more sensors in the brain.
Now, see, that surprises me because I would think that reading would be a good way to stimulate your brain.
And it is, and it depends on how you interact with it, because you can read something very passively and then just forget about it. Oh, I really wasn't paying attention, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're thinking about it and then you're going and telling people about it and then you're relating it to other things in your lives, that's a more active way to.
So what if
somebody
watching television 2 or 3 hours a day? They're increasing their chances of Alzheimer's by about 3 or 4%?
Well, it goes up, with each hour, but...
I guess that doesn't count, though,
it's not...
if you're watching this vodcast. if you're watching on KMOS,
right.
That doesn't count.
So go talk about it and exercise your brain. What did you learn on the Paul Pepper Show?
What about listening to the radio?
Again, it's sort of like, what are you going to do with that information? Because just being a zombie and just letting information wash over you doesn't do very much. Right. So go be active with it.
So be proactive. So when you're watching us or listening to us, converse with somebody else about what you heard today,
exactly.
what we were talking about.
Yeah.
That will exercise your brain.
Yes.
Okay? And that'll give you the reason why you can continue listening or watching. Tip number 3 to improve your memory.
Okay, so say it out loud. I love this effect because it's so simple. There's something called the production effect. So if we just read something, we are consuming it visually, and that's it. However, if we read it and we say it out loud and we hear ourselves say it, now we're engaging 3 of our senses instead of just 1, and we're more likely to remember it. So if you ever need to remember something, say it out loud instead of just reading it in your mind.
I've done that, and I know that does work.
Yeah.
It does work, especially with somebody's name. When you meet somebody for the first time, is this right? You introduce yourself, they give you their name, and then you repeat their name back to them again.
Yeah, that's really common.
Good to meet you, Danielle.
Exactly. It's nice to meet you too, Paul.
Yes, Danielle, and then 2 or 3 times, and hopefully it'll stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, good tips. If people want more information on this, or they want some help, what do they do? How do they get in touch with you?
So memorystrategy.com. You can go there and see all kinds of stuff.
Okay. Are there tips on there too?
Yep, I've got a blog out.
Okay. All right, Danielle. Thank you.
Thank you.
You kind of opened up my eyes this morning about certain things. Will you come back again?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Something you'd like to hear or see, I'd love to hear from you. Pepper P, Missouri.edu. Bye-bye.